Hello and welcome to OZChris vs. Absolute Carnage #1, the start of the long-awaited Venom Carnage event, written by Donny Cates, art by Ryan Stegman, the coloring by Frank Martin, inking by JP Mayer, and Stegman, Mayer, and Martin are the cover artists. So the culmination of what everything Cates has been setting up in Venom with Carnage is finally here. So, Eddie... after a brief recap of just the symbiote hosts, all of that, what's going on in Venom, Eddie and his son Dylan, who still doesn't know that he's Eddie's son, in hiding on the run after Carnage has impersonated Eddie and framed him for the murders that were going on at Riker's Island when Carnage went to retrieve a piece of the symbiote from within Lee Price, who was Venom before Eddie became Venom again. So they are saved by the Venom symbiote who returns to Eddie, and as they are confronted by Carnage himself, Carnage has finally made his move against Venom, made his proper move against Venom. And then we get into Chapter 2. This first issue is divided into 3 chapters. So into Chapter 2, Eddie has asked Spider-Man for help. Considering that Spider-Man is also a target, he had the Venom symbiote before Eddie became Venom. So there's a piece of the symbiote in Spider-Man. He's after him, and they need help from someone who is an expert of sorts with symbiotes. Q the Maker, who is developing a machine to remove those pieces of the symbiote, the codexes. So they've brought Dylan with them, who, as I said, still doesn't know that Eddie is his father, and I'm going to assume that Dylan has a piece of the symbiote in him because he was created by, he was conceived when Anne was She-Venom. She became pregnant with Eddie's son through being possessed by the Venom symbiote. So I'm going to assume that Dylan has a piece of the symbiote within him, and of course, Normie, Spider-Man's godson, who was infected by Red Goblin, who was using the Carnage symbiote at the time. But they don't want to experiment on the kids first. The makers suggest, why don't you use somebody else, which leads to Chapter 3. They head to Ravencroft to retrieve Norman Osborn, who, after the event of Slott's last Spider-Man arc, can't remember what it was called, but when Norman was Red Goblin and he was defeated, he went insane and now believes that he is Cletus Cassidy, that he is Carnage. So Eddie and Spidey go to retrieve Norman, but John Jameson, who was infected during the events of Cult of Carnage, tries to stop them. He tries to stop them as Cletus arrives at Ravencroft and starts infecting all of the inmates in there, turning them all into his own Carnage army, as Eddie and Peter fight to try and stop Carnage from getting Norman, because Norman was Carnage as Red Goblin, so he's got a piece of the symbiote within him. So we'll leave it there. Story, I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. This was an excellent start to Absolute Carnage. So there's so much that's going on. Despite the fact this is a very big issue, it actually really didn't take long to read. It was actually a nice solid read, despite the fact that there's just so much going on in this issue. It's such a phenomenal and great start. Throws you straight into the plot. Lots of action, lots of gruesome parts as well. It is so amazing. A brilliant start to this event. The art and the coloring, I don't do this very often. I don't remember the last time I've done this, but I'm giving it the full 5 out of 5 for the art and coloring. Stegman, Mayer, and Martin did a phenomenal job with this issue. They brought their A+ game to this first issue. The art and the coloring and inking and all of that is just so goddamn amazing. There are just so many parts like this. This is amazing. This is such a great double page spread. This book has just, I don't think the art is weak at any point in issue number 1. The art and the coloring, all of that is just so goddamn amazing. They did a amazing job, a tremendous, brilliant job with this. And the cover, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. Very amazing art and coloring on that. Very menacing, very menacing. Carnage standing over the graves of, Eddie Brock, Logan, Peter Parker, and all that. People that have been infected by symbiotes, as he's ready to retrieve them all to wake up Null, the god of the symbiotes. So overall, with this was a fantastic start to Absolute Carnage. It was so amazing. Highly recommended from me. Definitely check this out. It is a bit pricey. It's a $7.99 comic, but I feel like it's worth the price because it puts you through so much within this first issue, and you're gonna get your money's worth. Not on just the cover, but the interior art and coloring and all that, and the story as well. It is worth the $7.99 price. And what I like so far with Absolute Carnage number 1 is that all the characters that are in here, they're there for a legitimate reason. They are there for the plot, and they actually have something to do with the plot. Unlike with War of the Realms, where characters are just there because they happen to live in the same city, or just because they exist in the Marvel Universe. Like with War of the Realms, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Punisher, all that, they're in the story because they are in New York City. There is no actual plot story reason why for them to be in there, except for the fact it's a coincidence. In here, every character is there for a reason. So, when Peter's introduced, Peter is on Carnage's hit list. He has a piece of the symbiote codexes within him. So, he's going to be a target for Carnage. And he needs his help given his experience with symbiotes and fighting Carnage. The Maker, when he is brought in, he's the one who introduced the concept of these codexes, the pieces of the symbiotes that are left within former hosts that contain information and all that. So, and given his experimentations and all that on Eddie, he has a way of extracting codexes. So he's integral to the plot. They need to stop Carnage from getting all of these codexes, and more importantly, killing all the people to get these codexes. Normie, Spidey's godson, he was infected by Red Goblin, who was using Carnage. He has a piece of the codex. He needs to be there. Norman Osborn, also on Carnage's hit list. They need him for the experimentation of the codexes. Everyone in this is there for a legitimate reason. They're there because the story needs them to be there. They're not there because they just happen to live in the Marvel Universe. So, that was it for this review. Thank you all for watching. Definitely go read Absolute Carnage. This is amazing. So all the good adjectives you could describe is what Absolute Carnage number 1 is. So thank you all for watching. If you're new to the channel, leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that, and I will see you all in the next one.